Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.
Welcome back to another episode of the Business After Hours podcast. Here with my co-host Jared, as usual, and our guest Paul. How are you gentlemen doing this Friday?
Lovely, man. Happy Friday.
It's Friday.
TGIF.
Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So, Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and where you're at today?
Sure. So I'm currently residing in South Carolina, the beautiful sunny state. Beautiful February, 65-degree weather out here. Makes me happy that I made the move 2 years ago from Michigan. I still study up in Michigan at the University of Flint. I study, I'm essentially a doctoral candidate that studies the implementation of AI in business, right? And I use those studies to reinforce what I do for a living, and that's essentially consulting organizations with automations, as well as a holistic approach to integrating AI into every function of their organization.
Yeah, Jared's a big AI and automation person. So
I wouldn't say
Hallelujah.
big. I wouldn't say big. I dabble, but that's as far as I get.
Well,
You gotta
that's
get-
how it kind of started for me, right? I mean, I a year and a half ago, I was in the corporate environment, for 20 plus years, and kind of following that traditional chain of okay, I'm going up the corporate ladder, right? And like a lot of people last year, I found myself forced into entrepreneurship in a way, right? And I was dabbling beforehand in automations, low code, no code stuff, like using make.com and Zapier for friends, right? Supporting their small businesses. And the thought occurred, why can't I do this for myself and start flexing my procurement experience? Because I've got roughly, 20 years of procurement leadership. Well, 5 years of leadership experience, 20 years of procurement in Fortune 500s, right? And plenty of training. Why not flex that muscle and try to make money out of it? And honestly, it's been a fantastic experience, because for me, in the corporate environment, you're providing value to the company, right? And you're doing it in the way the company wants to see it. You have their processes. And it's been a real eye opener for me to jump into the entrepreneurial world and learn that I have a value proposition that I can provide to multiple companies in my own way, right? And it's very fulfilling.
So you say you were forced into entrepreneur. What do you mean by that?
Oh, I was shit canned, guys.
All right.
No, I mean,
that's
unfortunately,
good.
a lot of people were, right.
Yeah.
And still are. You see these mass layoffs, and it happens to very talented people. And there's people in the U.S. government right now that are, getting emails that say bye-bye, right? It's just an unfortunate thing. But what AI, I think, has taught me, and my children have also taught me too, is agility, right? And upskilling. Don't be afraid to tackle these new things and learn new skills, right? Because other people are going to do it too. and if you're not doing it right, they're going to have a leg up on you. So I kind of took it as a learning journey. One door closes, another one opens, and I got to be honest, I'm thankful to those shitty bosses who let me go.
Right.
Absolutely.
So what made you take the leap, other than obviously needing to get income? Why not just stay in the job market and try to catch on somewhere else?
Well, so once I started to realize that I had this value proposition that I was alluding to earlier that people were interested in, right? And I could do it in my own fashion. That really appealed to me, because most of my career experiences were, I put the feather in my cap, right? By doing digital transformation activities and changing internal structures at companies. And when I realized, hey, I can combine this research and this interest, this nerdy hobby of reading all business strategy stuff and applying it, I can combine that with my approach and who I am, and really be able to deliver something. And once I started doing that, that fulfilling thing kicked in, and you go, oh, okay, I have some time back, right? And when you talk about automations and you talk about AI and using it correctly, you start really saving yourself time. And when you structure your own business that way, things are a hell of a lot easier than beating the corporate uh, donkey up over and over for 6 months about the same topic, you know?
So go ahead, Jared.
No, so I was gonna ask, like, when you're doing automation, how how is it with companies looking? Sorry, companies looking for automation. What's the best way to find somebody? And like, why would somebody want to choose you over other people?
Oh, that's a loaded question, dude.
That's what we're here for.
No, it's actually a really good question because I think the first thing is a lot of people think about automations and artificial intelligence like it's some magic wand, you know, and it solves these bigger problems. And the general consensus, what I would say is that if you're looking for this service, you need to understand exactly what you're looking for, right? There are so many tools out there. There are so many that are used in all of these no code automations, and they're almost drag and drop, right?
Right.
And to understand the nuances of each individual tool, it's a very big challenge, but knowing enough about them makes you dangerous enough to close what they call information asymmetry. And that's the gap between a buyer and a seller in any product, right? There's always a gap of knowledge. And if you're able to close that gap, you're going to do something far more strategic and far better for your business, right? The more you close it, you're going to be more on point with your strategy. You're going to be more effective in your negotiation at a better cost. So it's always about due diligence and learning what exactly you want before you go out asking for it, right? And I've asked for things that I didn't realize I didn't need and didn't want, right? So we all do it because it seems like a good idea, and especially right now when you hear artificial intelligence everywhere, right? I mean, the Super Bowl advertisements, every other one was an artificial intelligence ad. Great for my business because people are interested, but most of my first phone calls with people who think they want something, it's really about teaching them, what it is they're looking for. And most of them can be solved with automations, but what you thought you wanted is really this small scope, right? It's really this, and then we can build on it.
What's the apprehension that you're facing?
I think there's a couple different things that people think, right? One, small business owners don't want to take their hat off and relax, right? Everybody, and I suffer from this too. We have this idea that the business is built by us and on us, right?
Right.
And the small business owners don't want to give away responsibility. And it's kind of like this thing where you have to remember to work on your business, right? You're growing your business so that you can spend time relaxing in the future, not that so you can work yourself into the ground. So I think people are apprehensive to give that technology, give that responsibility away to a technology they don't know fully.
Sure. What's been the learning curve like for teaching those small businesses?
I mean, it's still ongoing, right? Because these tools are changing every day. There's from a cost perspective, from a performance perspective, the basic fundamental automations don't change, but the tools are getting very niche, right? And that means when you're structuring businesses and you're building the foundation of any business, you really have to be agile, right? You really have to be able to think about how you're going to scale your company with the capability to replace building blocks, for lack of a better term, when the better technology comes, right? You have to have that foresight to get to where you're trying to go.
So I'm pretty sure automation is pretty much for everybody, but is AI?
I would argue absolutely. I have this thing in the back of my mind that think of the assembly line in Henry Ford, okay?
Right.
And what it did for humanity is provided us in the least a 5-day work week, okay? And I think when we talk about artificial intelligence and increasing productivity, we're talking from the capitalist perspective that, let's go get money, which is fantastic for business. Don't get me wrong. But there's also this idea that I really want to put out there for everybody. It's that maybe we can have some more leisure too, right? Some people go, "Hey, idle hands are the devil," and I'm going like, "Well, hey, wait a minute. I really want to relax. I really want to be good at what I do and focus only on what I'm good at doing so that I'm maximizing my value, right? And I do that best when I get, 4-day work weeks and extra day vacation. It's just what it is, extra day in the weekend. So I'm a big proponent of like looking at this holistically and going, AI should be making our lives easier.
Oh, 100% agree. I mean, I use mine every day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you feel like the automation market's getting oversaturated?
100%. 100%. And I'll tell you, one of the things I started to study because of that, and I started to, obviously, it makes sense to study it because I'm doing this stuff. I want to validate that what my company puts out there is, grounded in both theory and practice, right? And so what I'm studying is the Dunning-Kruger effect. And if what that basically is if you give a man a hammer, right, he thinks he's a carpenter. And you give a man a hammer, every problem becomes a nail, and AI is the nail, right? In this case, or the problems, use the hammer to solve it, right? And so the logic here is that when you're using artificial intelligence and you don't necessarily know the underlying, or you don't have the experience to properly perceive the underlying data, but you're using that information, you're becoming overconfident, right, in your incompetent abilities, right? And it's actually, and it snowballs. It's a snowball effect. So, that's my version of AI and bias, and AI and ethics is that, check yourself before you wreck yourself, basically, and make sure that you know what the hell it is you're doing with these tools too.
Which brings me to, are there dangers to the AI?
I think if we keep the humanity level where it's at, no, right? I think there's enough there to keep pushing us to do things better, smarter, faster, and so on. But obviously, any technology in the wrong hands, for lack of a better term, right, it can
Sure.
be used incorrectly, and the risk is when you have people, stupidity, right? When you have stupidity that proliferates because of the use of a tool incorrectly,
Sure. So old school businessman approaches you. What's kind of the learning curve that they are going to have?
Oh my gosh, the down here in the South, no harm meant by any of this, but down here in the South, very relaxed and very much their money is when they shake the hand, that's where their return on investment comes from. And my approach is always to let that 40-year business professional know that all that AI is doing, if you're using it right, is giving you more opportunities to have handshakes, right? You don't have to spend the time doing anything you don't like to do if you don't want to. You're just going to be focused on your activity that has the highest return on investment. And then the other thing with small business folks is, if you do it right, AI essentially emulates you. So if you're a person with drive that's, through the roof, and you're brilliant and you can structure companies well, if you're using AI, and in particular agentic AI, right, a system where AI is learning from itself and it's prioritizing accordingly, you basically have a bunch of little mini-me's in your organization, and that can be really good or really dangerous, right? And back to your previous question, it just depends on how you use it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a great question. What tool would you recommend for beginners?
Well, there's the belle of the ball, right? The Chat GPT. But what I find is that most people don't even explore inside Chat GPT. So the literal button that says explore to find the different types of customized models, that's still I would say 50%, I'd venture to say, of the population they know of Chat GPT. Maybe they've queried it, they've prompted it, but they don't know that there's specific financial GPTs that could support their balancing of their checkbooks or whatever, right? They don't even know. So starting where like the simplest tool and language learning model, a very and something that is well known is my suggestion, right? And explore it in its entirely. Then when you use one, especially if it's a language learning model where you're prompting, and you've learned how to talk with these things, like I'll admit, I talk to mine like it's my 3-year-old daughter all the time, right? And I expect it's going to screw up. I do. I expect it'll screw up, and I expect that if I'm not exactly how I want it to be, if I don't prompt it perfectly, it'll go off and do whatever it wants because that's what my 3-year-old does,
Right.
right? But I think every user needs to learn that with a simple system before they go on to these things like Perplexity or a Replit agent, where you can use language learning models to build a solution, a web application for you in like 30 seconds, well, more like 30 minutes, but through prompts, you can have a web application. It's insane.
It's funny that you mentioned that you talked to it, because I got some friends that are very apprehensive about it. They just are not a technology fan in general, and they're slow to adapting to everything. But when I was mentioning, because I got the new Galaxy phone, and their AI, they want you to talk to it, like I have a conversation and whatnot with it. And so when I was telling them about that, they're like, I am not talking to an AI machine.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely people that are apprehensive to the core about, sharing all bits of information. But the reality is that these reputable companies like OpenAI, Perplexity, Claude, they provide certificates that prove that their data is encrypted, in both at rest and, when it's moving somewhere in transit. So it's safer than people, I think, give it credit for. It's not like we're putting our information in a box. Don't go out and give it your social security number, but it's not like you're giving it information and it's going off and being sold somewhere. It's still contained and encrypted and relatively private. So, those things, though, have to be taught. Otherwise, the general consensus is that AI is going to use your data however AI pleases, but it's not really like that.
Right.
That's a good way to put that. Do you have a secret app that you use that?
Oh, dude, a secret combination of applications, 100%. And I'll be honest, most of it's for the research. My professors will kill me because the academic world is just like business, and like what Jeff is describing, they don't know what they're kind of flipping flopping. Some people love it, some people hate it. But in research, it's super powerful. There's a tool called SciSpace, typeset.io, and it basically is a massive research engine that searches all of the scholarly works that are available on a specific topic and will draw contextual parallels to the topic, right? And so that's one really kick-ass tool. But I use ChatGPT, and Perplexity in a lot of my workflows. And I use Perplexity to back up, provide data. So an example, I want to post social media. I have a copy of the social media I want to post. I want to add hashtags to it. I'll use Perplexity to make sure that my hashtags are relevant to the latest trend at the exact moment. Where GPT is trained on older data and there's a cutoff, you use Perplexity in that string of agents to kind of balance that out.
That's cool.
Which is easier to sell? I feel like I know the answer, but is it automation or AI, or does the combo have to come together?
The way to get in the door is AI with anybody right now, right?
Okay.
And that'll be that way for another 2 years, and then it'll be something different. Maybe, I hope, 2 years for my sake. But then when you explain to them what they're looking for, and really like the umbrella, AI is a big topic. There's
Right.
language learning models, NLP, there's optical models. When you explain to them that AI is an umbrella and there's different types, what they end up wanting is an automation with a couple functions that AI can provide within that automation.
So what's I mean, if you got older businessman or new business person coming in, and how do you explain the difference between automation and AI? Because they're two separate parts.
Yeah, they are. So I
work together,
generally
but
will pull up a workflow from a no code solution like Make, and visually show the modules themselves, right? So when you pull it up, you can see, a circle for Google, your Gmail. Let's say we're watching that, and I want to use the Gmail, the information in the Gmail with a chat GPT, or use it and paraphrase it or something. Then you can physically show, the actual information go from one module to another. And that's how you kind of explain that's the path of your data, right? And then through these modules, we're either resending it down a different path or we're transforming it into something different.
Sure.
It's the fundamental thing.
Okay. And then, so where do you come in play?
Well, like as a person, or
as the consult, yeah.
Yeah. So a
services.
lot. Good question. A lot of people are interested in having the automations done, right? So I started my business doing the automations myself. Now I have a team of people that do that. Where I come into play is basically explaining that gap, right? Closing that gap, closing the deals with these folks, and then moving forward. That's the sales hat. The consulting hat is taking that holistic view and taking business strategy and the impacts of business strategy and making sure that companies are aware of it. So an example would be the agile frameworks we were talking about earlier. I alluded to it earlier. If a business is not building up their business in an agile way, they're not going to be available to flex resources to capture opportunities.
Right.
And it's a basic fundamental theory that's like prevailing in business strategy, resource-based theory, right? And dynamic capabilities. What are you doing as a company to build different capabilities so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket? What verticals can you take advantage of? And these are things that the consulting group really supports, because one automation is singular, right? Then there's agentic automation that's 3 different automations talking to each other and learning from each other. And then there's, well, how are they doing that amongst the silos and the functions of the company? And that needs oversight, right?
Okay.
It needs guidance.
Gotcha.
Is it a struggle to get AI introduced into corporations that have been around for a while?
Yeah, 100%, man. The best play for any software company right now, if you're marketing as SaaS or AI or anything, is the shadow IT play, right? Get in with the people in the function that need your tool first, and then they use your tool and they tell IT, we got to get it, right?
Sure.
Because the same apprehension that exists in the general population about AI exists with IT departments that need to onboard these different systems, right? There's a lot of, and I don't want to blame IT, because cost, the business case isn't a factor, right? When you say IT can, or AI can do these 10 things for a cost of $10,000, and here's the impact in the next year, it's going to save you 60. The bosses go, okay, cool. How do we do it? And then there's the actual implementation of it. You start running into those roadblocks. So absolutely, the enterprises are harder to go into, harder to break into. And that's the reason why I think small businesses are going to drive innovation. They're the ones, and look at icon.me. Speaking of AI commercials, they launched an AI commercial and launched their company for the Super Bowl.
Right.
They did an advertisement in the Super Bowl. $100 million MRR already, monthly revenue, right? And they're 8 people. 8 people are doing, that massive amount of business. My mind tells me these big enterprise companies and decision makers, I don't even need to, they'll have to kind of jump on the bandwagon of the small company innovators in being able to in an agile fashion change their value propositions to the customers, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, wait, I feel like with small businesses, every dollar counts for them. Like, I think that's some of the fear too. Is getting an automation sounds expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you combat that? What are ways that you can reassure that it's not overly expensive to get into this?
No, I mean, you touched on an interesting thing in academia too. It's that the studies about AI and the effects of AI are still relatively fresh, right? There's not a lot of data that says concrete data that shows tangible results from AI. We know time is saved, right? We know, and there's the simple calculation. If you replace a desk attendant with a AI call bot, right? There's salary that's saved, you know. But the reality is, you have to explain to them in the same fashion that we were talking earlier, that it's a time saver, right? You're opening up your opportunity later to do something different. That's where you're getting your actual value, right? When you're shaking the hand, if you're a real estate agent, you're probably not, maybe you have a social media presence, maybe it's bringing in leads, but you're not closing your deals through that, right? What are you doing?
Right.
Well, you're getting out there, you're showing homes, and that's what basically we're telling them they're doing more of. When you get the chance to do more of what's bringing in your money, you're going to naturally get more money, right? And
Right.
meanwhile, you're saving it here and there. I'm personally a little perturbed also with how expensive automations are. Okay, not my company, but what I see other people out there doing, because they don't have the holistic approach. They're looking at it like a task management system, and they're automating one straight line of something, and then saying, "Oh, that's $5,000, buy." And I'll give you an example. A call bot to answer calls is not as expensive as people say it is. Right? It's not $6,000 to do that. It's far cheaper, and we'll see that level out as that information asymmetry gap closes.
Sure.
And then people like me and my company try to productize automations, right? Because the reality is, you build an automation, you can basically transfer that into a different function or organization fairly easily, right? So it's not like you build it once, you spend the 10 hours, it's 2 hours the next time to sell it, you know? So there's eventually it'll compress.
Gotcha.
I hope.
Pause. How's that?
I hope it does.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah.
Well, as we close up here, give us a pitch as to why a business should choose you.
Oh, you guys are mean. You get doctoral level attention to detail and holistic approach in my automations and where I input AI. I don't believe in doing it just to do it. I think if there's a smarter solution, we'll put that in place, right? Instead of artificial intelligence. And ultimately, my proposal is the productized automations that I just alluded to. And I think the price point is incredibly competitive without making me go broke. I got mouths to feed.
Sure. We all do. So, Jared, you got anything you want to add or ask? Or?
Just thanks for coming on, Paul. It was real. I love talking automation and AI, so it's always a good conversation.
Yeah.
And I think we were able to educate listeners to some of the fears they have. So thanks again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure's all mine, gentlemen. It's been awesome. You guys got some tough questions, and next time I'll figure out a good way to just bat them out of here.
I think you did.
You did a good
for those
job.
of you that are catching on and whatnot, all his links are going to be down below, so you guys can contact him and get all his business links and his personal links for LinkedIn and whatnot to be able to link up with Paul. And hopefully he can help your business either save a lot of time, which will save on compensation paid to employees, or possibly even increasing some revenue in your business. So definitely appreciate you coming on, Paul, and hopefully we can continue educating folks on AI and automation and get you some business as well.
Yeah, you got it, man. I appreciate you guys for what you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.